A baby was separated from her family. After 37 years, her brother tried to look for her. What he found changed his life.
But before we start, please take a moment to give this video a like, subscribe to Happy World, and hit the bell so you'll never miss these great stories.
Having a child is a beautiful experience for some, but sometimes kids are separated from their parents and siblings, and it's almost impossible to imagine what a family would go through if that child was stolen from them, kidnapped. It happened with a family, and who came to their rescue after more than 3 decades? The answer is astonishing and hopeful. For 37 years, the family didn't forget about their lost child and tried everything to get her back. Just like all other days, Steve Inman's baby was 2 months old, and his wife Donna had taken him to bed, but Steve was still awake. Like most nights, he thought of the tragedy that struck his family a long time ago. He spent some time wondering if he was ready to go down the memory lane, and then decided to go there even if he wasn't. It was an incident he shouldn't be allowed to forget. Inside his closet in his current residence in Fontana, California, kept safely was a box of old family photos which Steve decided to explore again. On top of that, he found a picture of his younger self, and he couldn't contain the involuntary smile that graced his face as he noticed his baby boy had the same round ears as he did. Even their lips were similar, but that wasn't the reason why he opened the album. In the album, Steve rediscovered the old pictures of his mother, how she was as a young girl and woman in South Korea. Then came the picture of his elder sister settled in a meadow, who was no longer part of the family, who disappeared even before he was born. She was 8 months old in the picture. Where was she now, and was she even alive? He hadn't met her ever, however both their childhood pictures were similar, but he thought every day what it would have been like to have her in his life. It had been 37 years now since she was lost. He didn't even know if she was still alive, and even if she was, he couldn't think of ways to find her, where to start looking. She didn't even know that she had a younger brother, or did she? An American soldier stationed in South Korea, Steve Inman Sr. fell in love with a Korean woman named Chum Gu-yi. After a small period of courtship, they got married. They were happy together and Chum got pregnant, but when it was time to deliver her baby, they couldn't get to the base hospital soon enough. Since the couple couldn't get to the base hospital in time, the delivery of the baby took place in a village called Changmao. The couple was happy with their baby girl, who was named Sally. They were settled in rural Korea for the time being and raised their daughter with the help of an old woman they thought they knew, but this only went on for 8 months. Steve Inman Sr. wanted to return to his homeland now to Salt Lake City, Utah, to introduce his bride Chum and his cute infant daughter to his relatives and friends there, and obviously start his new life with his family. While there were some official issues. Since Sally wasn't born in an American Army base hospital, she didn't receive US citizenship automatically. What were the parents to do now? On top of that, the parents committed a slight mistake on Sally's paperwork, which concluded that neither the US nor Korean governments considered Sally to be Steve's legitimate daughter. The Inman family was suggested by their lawyer that they should take care of the legal work after returning to America and leave Sally behind for the time being. Like any loving parents, Sally's mom and dad were apprehensive about leaving their little one behind. But Chum's mother doted on Sally and she offered to take care of her granddaughter while the parents went to America to sort out the issues. Chum left her daughter in her mother's care and flew to America in the hope that her daughter would soon reunite with them. Obstacles in bringing Sally home only intensified instead of decreasing. The US government, because of some bureaucratic issues, didn't allow Steve to claim Sally as his own daughter, but recommended him to adopt her formally. Meanwhile, the grandmother back in Korea was taking care of Sally, but it was too late now for her to be brought to America. The process of adopting Sally was taking painstakingly long and was expensive. Chum made sure to call her mother every day to inquire about Sally and her well-being. It had been 8 months now since they'd been separated from their daughter. One day they got a call from the grandmother, which made their worst nightmare come true. The grandmother called Chum, informing her the old woman who worked as Sally's nanny had paid a visit and said that she really missed Sally and wanted to spend some time with her to take her out. She'd called her to ask for permission and Chum complied. Little did she know this would be her biggest mistake. The nanny had never returned. She'd kidnapped Sally. This is when Steve Jr. was told about his eldest daughter. His mother further told him that Sally had been kidnapped. The parents couldn't afford to go back to Korea as a lot of money had been spent on trying to get Sally to America. The couple went on to have 2 more children, Connie and Steve Jr. But Steve Sr. had been really hit by Sally's kidnapping and he started losing it. After the news of Sally's disappearance, Steve Sr. took to alcohol and abused it. He wasn't making a lot of money and couldn't keep his current family well fed. The responsibilities were becoming too much for him, so he left his family. Left alone, Chum didn't know what to do, so she eventually remarried and moved to California with her kids. What was Sally doing in the background? Instead of being at the back of her memory, Sally was thought about actively. Chum told both her kids about their eldest sister. She actually took them both to Korea more than once to look for Sally, but all their trips proved to be a failure. During family gatherings, the girl's absence weighed heavily. An uncle in Christmas dinner would comment, "Sally should be here." Sally's pictures were kept in the house to remind everyone of the lost family member. Little Steve Jr. would often think of his sister's fate. Was she even alive? As he grew up, the urge to find her only grew stronger, and then came the age of the internet, which made many things easier. Steve Jr. decided to test the ability of the internet, see if it was as powerful as people claimed it to be, and he used it to look for his lost sister. Steve thought of employing a private investigator to look for his lost sister, but just the first installment of payment was $30,000, and Steve Jr. couldn't afford it. He was advised by his father, who'd abandoned their family long ago, to just give up his search, but Steve Jr. refused. He used to type his sister's name in the search engine, but realized the nanny might have changed her name. Steve Jr. did everything he could to find his sister that people did to find the people they lost years ago. He emailed his story and the details about his lost sister to news stations in hoping of getting them interested. He even wrote to Oprah hoping to get her attention so he could get on stage to talk about his lost sister. None of this seemed to work out. Then he came up with another idea. The night he was going through the albums, he was 33. Life had moved on, but the thought of Sally always remained, and he had an idea. He read many stories about people who'd been united with their loved ones after searching for them on Facebook. So Steve Jr. decided to put up a Facebook page in the name of his lost sister. The response was quite disappointing initially. Hoping his sister was on the social network, no matter by whichever name, Steve Jr. set up a page named Sally and Mon, Missing Child. If she was alive and grew up in Korea, then the nanny could have probably given a Korean name. He also uploaded 12 photos of Sally on the page and gave details of her abduction, hoping some positive response would come from it. In the About section of the page, Steve decided to write Sally's story. "I was last seen in the city of Changmal near Camp Casey in South Korea. I've been missing since February of 1974. Please post this where you can, and hopefully through social networking we can help me reunite with my long-lost family." It was a long shot, but worth a try. Steve Jr. had put up the post in the hopes of reuniting with his sister, but initially the idea backfired. People can be really evil. They pulled pranks on him, bombarding him with texts and calls claiming to be Sally or her children. This went on for months and Steve started losing hope, but one call changed everything. In an interview with the Pasadena Star News, Steve observed, "It was like a normal day laying around watching the Food Network, and then the phone rang. Steve let it go to voicemail as the number was unknown. When he heard the voicemail, he thought it was another prank, but it turned out to be a life-changing call." The voicemail said, "Steve, I was on your Facebook and I noticed you were looking for your sister and I read the whole thing." It was a woman's voice and Steve held his breath. "And I would like you to just give us a call because the girl you're looking for is actually my mom." Was it another prank? Should he call back? But if he didn't, he would be in suspense forever, so he did call back. Steve called back and the woman picked up. She passed the call to her mother, who said, "Is this Steve? This is Sally." Steve's heart was fluttering with anticipation, but he was also apprehensive somewhere. The woman continued, "I have those same pictures." And all Steve could think of was whether he could trust the woman or not. On the other hand, the could-be Sally was waiting for some sort of an emotional outburst from Steve, and all he could think of saying, "Maybe we could take a paternity test." The woman's tone sounded offended after this, and she replied in annoyance, "I know who I am. I don't need a paternity test." This was a problem, but what was the solution? Why was a paternity test unnecessary? Because the woman said, "Well, my mom would know it's me because I have a birthmark on my lip." Steve was struck. He knew this was Sally. His mother had told him about the birthmark. In the interview, he said, "That was a secret password," he continued. "That was information we didn't post, but where had she been all this time?" Steve cut the call with his sister to call his mother and connect them via conference call. He explained everything to his mother and told her about the birthmark. When they were connected, Chum could only cry, I'm sorry I don't know what happened. I'm sorry that 37 years went by. I thought you were eating out of a trash can. I'm so glad you're alive." But how was Sally living? Obviously, Steve and his mother wanted to know what was Sally's side of the story. Sally told him that she'd been told she was adopted by her nanny and her biological parents had cut her off and stopped sending her money or letters after going to the US. The nanny married a soldier from America and immigrated to Texas. Sally said, "My adoptive mom gave me all the information she could, but I was half Korean and half American and didn't fit in Korea or in Texas when we came to the States." Sally was never accepted by her adoptive family. Whenever she did something, she was scolded with the phrase, "Wild just like your father." When old enough, Sally got married and moved to South Carolina and had 7 kids. She had a lot of questions for her adoptive parents. She got to know they lied to her about the blood group and even wondered what other things they lied about. Steve had to just accept there were questions that forever remain unanswered. Now, though, everyone was looking forward to the reunion. In the interview, Steve said, "A lot of crazy things were going on in Korea. At the time, there was no technology. Korea was like a third world country. There were no records of what happened, and now the only people who have the answers, our grandmother and the nanny, are dead. Some things had to be let go of." The family decided to have a video call before they met each other. They just couldn't wait. The internet brought about another reunion. When the three siblings got on the Skype call, they were overwhelmed and surprised. Steve felt that it was like looking into a mirror, but now after 37 years, it was time for the family to meet. Steve Jr. and Connie arranged for their eldest sister and their 3 of her kids to fly down to California to meet the family, and the mother was there too. The newly reunited family spent a week together in Fontana. They all naturally gelled together, and it just proved they shared the same blood. Sally got emotional and said, "I don't want these few days to ever end." They're a complete family now. Sally's absence in Christmas is no longer felt as the family gets together with all their kids. They meet each other many times per year. Sally said in an interview with Pasadena Star News, "A big void has been filled." The cons of the internet are unending, but it has also proved to be a positive place, and the reunion of this family is one of many happy endings the internet has brought about.